Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Bulletin here on the Blood Red channel. I'm your host, Edward Kay. Joining me this morning is Ben Bocsak, and we're, of course, going to be discussing Liverpool announcing the signing over the weekend of the Hungarian midfielder Dominik Szoboszlai from RB Leipzig, a fee in the region of £60 million. Ben, I want to start on, he's got the number 8, so I think you can maybe guess what kind of role he might be playing in Liverpool's midfield. But yeah, what kind of profile of midfielder is he, and where do you expect him to sort of fit in Jurgen Klopp's midfield?
Well, I wrote about how he could be Gerrard's replacement 4 years ago. I think people are getting those tweets up now. So, yeah, I think that's probably the best way to describe him. I think he's a blend of Gerrard and Kevin De Bruyne in terms of his creativity. That's another player who I've compared him to a lot over the last 24 hours. But I think even going back to 2019, I said he was similar to De Bruyne. So yeah, those two, like if you can imagine Gerrard's long range shooting ability coupled with his set piece specialty and then adds De Bruyne's creativity and you get, I think, obviously not quite the same quality as those players yet, but you get the potential of a combination of the both if he can fulfill his potential. And he's only 22, so he's still quite young. But I think he's got a bit of both of those players.
Yeah, we'll stay with the Steven Gerrard comparison really, because obviously, like you say, he's got the number 8. Naby Keita didn't really manage to fill the shirt too well, and obviously, like you say, similarities to Gerrard in terms of the ability ball striking wise. That was, for me, I have to say, I haven't seen much of Szoboszlai, but one of the things I was aware of about him is that ball striking ability. How much of a help do you think that's going to be with Liverpool sort of really needing goals from midfield now?
I think huge. I think he's got such a unique technique in world football. In Hungarian media, he's always said his secret is the fact that he has small feet. I think he's only like size 7 UK size for a 6'1" player. That's quite small feet. Obviously, we just spoke to Adam Bogdan as well, who talked about how difficult it was to stop his shots, how the kind of technique that he had in terms of the ball dipping and at a really awkward time for goalkeepers. So yeah, I think all of those things combined, I think there's the potential for someone with who can really add goals from midfield. But at the same time, I will add, he didn't score that many goals from midfield for Leipzig last season. I think it was only 8 or 9 in total. And he did say when he was asked in Hungarian media where he thinks he could improve, and he said that he needs to take on more shots and get in the box more. So that's an area of his game that he still is looking to improve on. And I think it will take time. Naby Keita scored a lot of goals as well at Leipzig, like you mentioned, and I think it won't necessarily. I'm not expecting him to score 15, 17 goals next season, but even if he can add like 8 or 9 that he did for Leipzig last season, that's not bad. And I think that's what Liverpool need in this moment, because we're already getting quite a few goals in attack anyway with the special front five that Liverpool now have.
Yeah, and I think with McAllister having come in, obviously he got 10 goals in the league for Brighton last year, a few of them penalties, but Liverpool definitely adding goals to the midfield, something they needed. In terms of leadership in that midfield, obviously Jordan Henderson, we're probably expecting him to take a bit more of a backseat next season. I mean, people on Twitter certainly are hoping that he does. I'm not sure I completely agree with them, because he does certainly brings a lot to that right-hand side of the midfield three, especially in terms of leadership, but Szoboszlai is only 22. He's the Hungarian national team captain. He's been given a 5-year contract. The Reds clearly looking to sort of build around him in the midfield, around him and McAllister as well, obviously, and hopefully he'll be able to inject some of that leadership that he brings to the national team as well, Ben.
Absolutely. I mean, Adam Bogdan was with him in the national team for quite a few games and quite a few national team camps. Said that he's a big character, and I think he'll bring that to Liverpool as well. He's someone who's very confident. I think Adam Bogdan said he's cocky, but in the right way. And I think Liverpool fans have seen clips of that, when Neymar tried to put him off in Leipzig's game against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League a couple of years ago. And then he told him, "I never miss," and put the penalty in the back of the net afterwards. So yeah, he's a confident character. And I think Liverpool need a bit of that, because last season we watched so many games where the team was just devoid of confidence and sapped of energy and everything. And I think that's why I wasn't necessarily on board with the Mason Mount signing, because he didn't look like a player who was in good form. But this feels like, and McAllister as well, these are two players, in the form of their lives. McAllister won the World Cup. Dominik's coming on the back of a really dominant season in the Bundesliga, where he was one of the best players. And I think that's what Liverpool need now. Those players coming in and lifting the midfield up and lifting the team spirit up as well, and making them believe again.
Yeah, I do like that Neymar story. It shows he's got a bit of something about him. And obviously, I mean, you say things like that, it can always go wrong. I remember a basketball player this season saying he was going to make both free throws, telling one of the opposition members, and then missing both of them. So it can be quite embarrassing if you do that. But I wanted to get your thoughts on his price tag. Obviously, around £60 million. We got McAllister in for much cheaper, around 35. And McAllister obviously is proven in the Premier League. So do you think Liverpool might be worried they've taken a bit of a risk? I think he's like the third most expensive signing for Liverpool of all time. So there is a bit of risk attached to it. But how confident are you, Ben, that he'll prove that he's worth the money?
Yeah, I think only Darwin Núñez and Virgil van Dijk were more expensive, so that says a lot. But like you said, I think this price tag is banking quite a lot on the potential that the player has. And I think he has a lot of potential. And like Adam Bogdan said, and I think a lot of people have said now in Hungarian media as well, some Tamás Hajdú, who worked with Jurgen Klopp at Borussia Dortmund, who was a player there, they all said it will take him a bit of time to adjust. It will take a bit of time for him to get used to the rhythm of the Premier League and the intensity. I mean, it's a big step up from the Bundesliga. And I think with Jurgen Klopp, he's with the right coach and the right manager who will take his time and who will sort of gradually phase him in to the first 11 and the starting team. But again, a lot just depends on pre-season as well, because he could just come in and surprise everyone and be amazing, and then he'll be starting against Chelsea straight away. But back to the price tag, I think it's a lot of money. There are some risks that come with it naturally when you're spending that much money on a player. But I think Dominik has all the potential and all the ability to prove that price tag right, and maybe even make himself a bit of a bargain in the future.
Yeah, you mentioned Klopp there, and I did want to touch on his role in sort of pulling Szoboszlai to the club, really. I mean, the players mentioned that him wanting to work with Jurgen Klopp was a big part of him wanting to move to Liverpool. Obviously, Newcastle were interested. There's some reports that he basically told them, no, I want to go and work with Jurgen Klopp. Obviously, Newcastle have got Champions League football, where only in the Europa League next year. Does that just sort of show that while Jurgen Klopp's at the club, Liverpool are still going to have that pull, no matter whether they're in the Champions League or not?
Yeah, I think the McAllister signing as well. He also had Champions League interest in him. So both of these signings prove how much of a pull Jurgen Klopp has. I mean, obviously, unlike McAllister, Dominik has spoken openly about his sort of love for Jurgen Klopp. He even mentioned it in his official interview that the first time he spoke about him being one of the best managers in the world was back in 2020. So over 3 years ago now, I think. And obviously, I think because of the system that he's played in terms of the gegenpressing, the red ball system that he's been in from a very young age, obviously Jurgen Klopp's playing style is kind of appealing because it's very similar. And I think that kind of pulled him in as well in terms of the similarity. And he's someone who likes to take his career step by step. And, we've seen a lot of players now from Red Bull clubs move to Liverpool. It seems like the natural next step in a lot of Red Bull careers. So it makes sense.
Yeah, the systems just seem to match up so well, don't they? Red Bulls and Liverpool's. I mean, if we're not signing RB Leipzig players, we're being linked to them. Konrad Laimer was one every summer for a while, getting linked to him. But just on the midfield rebuild, we'll sort of finish on this because there have been as is the way with social media. As soon as Szoboszlai signs, it's like right on to the next one. There have been some links to Romeo Lavia. Obviously, I'm not sure about Manu Kone anymore because he has sprained his knee in the under-21 championship. So whether that one will be getting done, I'm not sure. Still links to Kefren Turam. Do you think Liverpool are looking to get one more midfielder in order to complete the rebuild?
I think you need to. I think the biggest need in the Liverpool midfield is having someone who can cover for Fabinho or even push him and provide competition. And yes, while I have seen Dominik play in the number 6 position for Hungarian youth teams years ago, I don't think he's that player who can play in that role. He described himself as an attacking midfielder, and that's what he is. So I think I would really like to see someone come in who can play in that holding midfield position. Someone like Lavia seems like a really ideal fit because he's really young. He's had a good season. He obviously ranks quite highly in terms of ball retention and winning the ball back and those kind of things. And I think obviously he's I think £50 million. That's what Southampton want for him, which is obviously a lot of player for a player again, and that's something where Liverpool again will have to bank on in terms of his potential rather than his quality right now, because there's still a lot of question marks when you're signing such a young player. But I think it seems like that should be the priority, getting a holding midfielder in, and who that will be, we'll see, because we didn't really know any concrete news about Dominik Szoboszlai. We knew Liverpool were kind of tentatively interested in him, but we didn't know anything until Wednesday, and now we're here Monday morning next week, and he's signed. So that could be a surprise name still, and Liverpool are a club that keeps their cards very close to their chests.
Yeah, it all happened very quickly, didn't it? And I'm getting this. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm getting similar sort of feelings with the Lavia thing. It was more Kone, Turam before, and then now Lavia seems to have sort of come to the forefront as a target. But I mean, if it was them three, if you're going into the season with McAllister on the left, Szoboszlai on the right, and maybe Fabinho starts in CDM with Bajcetic and Lavia as coverage, I mean, I think we'd all be pretty happy with that as a midfield rebuild. But that is all we've got time for here on the Morning Bulletin today. So, Ben, thanks for joining me, and we'll catch you next time.